Greetings, it's Iain from RTL here. Welcome to another album ranking, and we've got a viewer's request today. We're going to look at one of the pioneers of grunge. Not my favourite genre, but an important genre. And the band we're going to look at today is Nirvana. Nirvana were formed in 1987 by lead singer and guitarist Kurt Cobain and bass player Chris, I think I've got Novoselic, that's it, and Chad Channing. They had a few drummers before that, but he made the first album and then he left, and in came Dave Grohl in 1990. Their music was very popular and influenced a lot of people, and they only made the 3 albums because obviously we had the sad death of Kurt Cobain, who tragically took his own life, but they did leave 3 albums and a culture that people still like today. I hadn't listened to 2 of these albums. I'd heard 1, of course. So this was things when I decided to rank this, I sat and listened to them, and I come up with it this way. So, coming in at number 3, we have the debut album from 1989, Bleach. So on here we've got Kurt, Chris, Novoselic, Chad Channing on drums, and additional personnel, Dale Crover on the drums on Floyd the Barber, Paper Cuts and Downer. So the first track on here is a song called Blue. It's got a really thumping bass line from Chris, some nice little guitar riffs from Kurt. The drums do sound a little bit hollow, to be honest, and the lyrics are a bit but there you go. Floyd the Barber, very hollow drumming again. It's raw, lacks depth. The drum sort of loses the beat. This is Dale Crover on the drums. Yeah, and you can understand why he didn't last time, because he just kept dropping the beat. About a girl, and musically it sounds okay, but I think Kurt's vocals are not as strong as any other stuff. He's trying to strain his voice already. It just doesn't sound right. Then we have a track called School. Kurt is really good on this. Some nice guitar bits on this. Great bass line from Chris. Always good on the bass, Chris, what I've discovered. This is probably the best track on the album. It's that sound that Nirvana were looking for, and yeah, this is the first track that really you can get what was going to come. Then we have Love Buzz, which is a cover of a Shocking Blue cover. I like this. I like the original, sort of but of course you've got Kurt singing this instead of the female lead vocal, but it's a very good track for a cover, and they do a very good version of it. Paper Cuts. Oh dear, the drumming again. This is Dale Crover. His drumming is a little bit hollow, doesn't do anything for me. Negative Creep. Very lyrics are very repetitive. It's not the best track. The whole thing is just not very good. Then we get Scoff, reduced to shouting and screaming on this. It's not particularly good, and I didn't like it. Swap Meat isn't too bad. It's got a really good guitar riff on this one. Mr. Moustache. Kirk's vocals are not very good. It's just lacks something. Sifting. Got potential here, but it just lacked a little bit of direction. Now, I'd only listened to this album once when I'd done a little bit on Nirvana before, and I didn't like it at all. The sound was saying, you know, they didn't know quite not what they wanted to do. I think changing the drummer was a good idea. There was one track on here that really, they nearly got it right. So in that case, for that, I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 3 out of 10. Okay, then coming in at number 2, we have the third and final album released in 1993. Kurt on the guitars and vocals, Chris on the bass, and Dave on the drums. And we've got Kira Scally on the cello on a couple of tracks as well. And the album's called In Utero. First track is called Serve the Servants. Not a bad track, some great drumming from Dave. Having Dave in the band, he's drumming. He's a great drummer. He's a really good musician all round, is Dave. It's not a bad song. I like that. Then we get Scentless Apprentice. My favourite track on this album. It's got some great riffs in this from Kurt. A very good vocal. Just a solid song. Heart-shaped box. Great bass line from Chris. Sort of got that. It's just not a bad track actually. Then we have a track called Rape Me. The drumming on this is fantastic. Absolutely heavy, hard hitting. I mean, when Dave hits drums, he hits them hard. That's a really good song. Frances Farmer will have her revenge on Seattle. It sounds too much like the rest of the tracks. There's nothing unique about that. Then we get Quirky Little Number. I love the cello on this. Really adds it to this, and it's not a bad track. Then we get Very Ape. It's alright. Milk It. Good track. Best thing about this track is the bass line. Absolutely killer bass line from Chris. And then we get Penny Royalty. I love this, but I really like it when it's done as a acoustic number as well. It's really, really good. It's one of the best tracks they ever did. Then we get Radio Friendly Unit Shifter. Not a good track. And then we get Tourette's, which is a very short track. Just reminds me of stuff off the first album. It's not very good at all. And then All Apologies, not too bad. I love this. You got a cello on it again. You got a nice bass line. You got the bass and the cello working well, and Dave's drumming's good sound to it as well. So that was the last track. Okay, after the previous album, it was always going to be difficult to make up that follow album. Bands always have this problem. It didn't have as much success, but there are some good tracks on this. But I think it just failed to meet the expectations after the album we'll be talking about in a minute. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7 out of 10. So my number 1, it's a bit obvious which one it is, and it's probably the one that I do like. That's why it's my number 1. But I didn't. It came out in 1991, but I never listened to this album until, if you can believe it, I didn't listen to it until 2000, and I just was curious to see what the big rage was, because it was a grunge and I was not into grunge. And it's Nevermind from 1991, and it was the first one that featured Dave Grohl on the drums. We got Chad Channing did some cymbals on Polly, Kurt Canning on cello as well. opens up with, of course, Smells Like Teen Spirit. I reckon this is probably Dave Grohl's best ever drumming, and you ever see him doing clips now, it's brilliant. I did like this when it came out, though, I must admit. I thought this was a great song. It was what was really needed in 1991. Very good song. Then we get In Bloom. A good song. I was so surprised when I originally heard this. How good it is, and what a good guitar player Kurt was. He was a talent. He could write, and he was a good singer. It's a really strong track. I love that track, actually, now. Then we have another track that I love more now than I did in 1991, and that's Come As You Are. It's Chris's bass line that's great on this. I like this. Then we get Breed. Now this is so very post-punk. It's really strong. Heavy hard in drums, great riffs. A really good song. Then we get Lithium, and I always remember this when it came out. That bass line. Fantastic bass line from Chris. Great drumming from Dave. Awesome track. Then we get Polly. Very little clever little track. It's a great vocal. Just a very simple song. And they even got the old drummer doing a bit of percussion on it. Then we have a track called Territorial Bissings. Interesting. Again, very, very post-punk. I think it's very... probably the weakest track on here, but it's still not a bad track. Drain You, interesting lyric from Kurt on this. I do like Dave's drumming. He's hitting them drums so hard. Then we get Lounge Act. The best bass line that Chris ever did with Nirvana. Absolutely brilliant. I love the guitars in this as well. Then we get Stay Away. Chris on the bass. Brilliant. Terrific drumming from Dave on this one. On a Plane, good track. I really enjoy listening to this track. One of the deep cuts on this album that deserves more credit than it is. It's some great track. Something in the Way. This is a really eerie ambient song, a little bit different. Great vocal from Kurt and Dave. As we know, Dave can sing. It's a great track. I love it. It's quite moving as well. And then we get an hidden track called Nameless, Endless Nameless. No wonder it's hidden, because it's absolutely diabolical rubbish. Okay, this is an album. The only up until about 2000, I'd never heard anything but the singles. I thought it's about time I listened to this album all the way through. So I did. And when I sat down and listened to it, I thought, wow, what have I missed out on? It's a good album. I can understand why this is one of the greatest rock albums of the 90s. It's musically, it's brilliant. After all these years I bashed this band, I do appreciate this album. So the fact now that I do own this, it's a very good album, and I did regret that I didn't appreciate it back in 91, but I really appreciate it now, and I know what a good album this is, and a very important album in rock. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8.5. Okay, that's all for this. We've got a great retro ranking today. We're going to do a little bit of skiffle, washboards and chessboard basses, and from the great and one of the best skiffle artists ever, Mr. Lonnie Donegan. So that's all coming up later. Bye for now.